All right, today we're going to go over the order of operations. And why is that? Well, this is like one of the most basic building blocks for doing any kind of math. And yet it's also something that a lot, and I mean a lot of people struggle with, whether you're in fourth grade or if you're 50 years old. A lot of people tend to struggle with the order of operations. So we're going to go over it again, have a little crash course and do some practice problems, right? So what is this acronym here, PEMDAS, that you're seeing? Well, PEMDAS, right? The P stands for parentheses, and this is the order in which we do our problems. We look to see if our problem contains any equation contained within parentheses. This right here is the first part of PEMDAS, and it's what trips up most people. When we say parentheses, I need to emphasize that we're going to simplify whatever is contained within parentheses throughout the entire equation, right? Many people often assume if they see something right next to the parentheses, like let's say being multiplied, then they have to do that first because parentheses. That is not the case. That is not what the P stands for. We simply simplify what is contained within parentheses. With that out of the way, we can move on to E. E is for exponent. Simply saying if we have any term that is squared or cubed or raised to any power, in fact, it could be to a square, it could be like a square root because a square root is technically to the 1/2 power. We simplify that next, right? People usually don't have a problem with that. This next point, people do have a problem with, right? The M and the D multiply, and then you can guess what the D stands for, and divide. Now, what's the issue here, right? Multiplying and dividing isn't hard. The hard part is that in the acronym, M comes before D. So a lot of people tend to believe that you must multiply when you divide. That is not the case. Multiply and divide, they're like one step mushed together. You simply, when you're at this point, right, of your problem, it means everything within parentheses has been simplified. Anything raised to a power has been raised, and you're left with terms that are just being multiplied, divided, added, or subtracted. At this point in your problem, you do not do multiplication before division, nor do you do division before multiplication. You simply move left to right across the equation and do either multiplication or division in whichever order they come, right? Just like we read in the United States from left to right. I said United States because some places they don't do left to right. But anyway, just like we read from left to right, we do this multiplying and dividing in left to right, right? And this is going to make sense when we're doing practice problems, right? Hopefully it already does make sense, but if it doesn't, hopefully I can clarify this in our practice problems. And then the last parts are adding, so addition, and subtraction. And just like multiplication and division, you don't do one before the other. You simply, this is like a merge step again, and you simply read the problem across left to right, and you say, oh, right here, there's a subtraction. Let me subtract these two. Oh, right here, addition. I'll subtract these. Sorry, I'll add these. Oh, right here, another addition. I'll add these. You just simply move left to right across the equation. Now, something I want to bring up real quick that you may have heard of. It's called BODMAS, right? And now we're going to run through this a little bit faster than we just did PEMDAS, right? Now, a lot of people might not know what BODMAS is, but some people do. And if you do, then PEMDAS is going to annoy you, right? Why? Well, because BODMAS has different words. That's why it's spelled like a different acronym. However, it means the same thing, right? So I'm going to quickly go through this. B stands for bracket, O stands for order, D stands for divide, M stands for multiply. I spelled that wrong. Just pretend this is an I. Multiply. And then I'm going to just add and subtract. Right? And as you can see right here, right? The D and the M are swapped places than they are on PEMDAS. Again, it's because that doesn't matter. We simply go from left to right across the equation when all we have left is division and multiplication or addition and subtraction. Bracket simply means parentheses. Like, it's referring to the same thing. Bracket means just simplify whatever is contained within brackets or parentheses, right? And then order, again, that's just a different word for exponent. If something is raised to the second order, then you square it. These acronyms are the exact same thing. They don't change up the order of operations. It doesn't matter which acronym you use, the order is still the same because the order is objective. It is not subjective. There is one order to do things in that gets you to one right answer. With that said, we are going to look at some practice problems, right? So let's do that. Okay, now that we have a new screen pulled up, let us look at this one problem in particular that I posted to my Instagram story for anybody who follows me to solve, right? The problem is 2 plus 5 times 8 minus 5. I really posted these problems because I just wanted to see how many people struggle with PEMDAS and what they struggle with. And after doing this poll, it turns out not that many people struggle with this, right? With PEMDAS or BODMAS, whichever you prefer. I'm going to say PEMDAS because that's what I've used forever. We're going to simplify what's in parentheses first, right? So 8 minus 5 becomes a 3, right? And then we still have everything else. 2 plus 5 times 3. We don't have any exponents. And so now we can move on to the multiply or divide portion of our problem. Well, we only have multiplication, so 2 plus 5 times 3 becomes 2 plus 15, right? And that obviously equals 17. 90% of those who responded to this question got the correct answer. 10% thought that the answer was 21. And I assume that just comes from distributing the 5 and then adding and subtracting across, which would not be the correct thing to do. Now, the next problem is where things start to get a little interesting, right? So we're going to clear this and write out that new problem. The next problem was 4 plus 6 divided by 5 times 4 minus 2. Notice how I wrote that division symbol, right? We also could have done, here, let me put a little bar in between. I also could have wrote this, 4 plus 6 backslash 5 divided by 4 minus 2 because both are valid division symbols. I just chose to use this because people like looking at that more. So we're going to do this. And I put this in a particular order because I did problems like this last year. And I noticed that people struggled with this order. So we're going to go over it again. So the first step, obviously, is to evaluate what's in the parentheses, right? So we got a 4 plus 6 contained within parentheses. Let's make that a 10, right? So we got a 10. And then we're going to divide by 5 times, oh, we got more parentheses, 4 minus 2. That becomes 2, right? Okay, so what do we have left? I see that we have division. We have division right here and multiplication right here, right? When you have a number like 5 kind of just pressed up right against the parentheses, that just implies multiplication. Apparently, not everybody is taught this. That's what that means. So we are going to go left to right, right? Because even though PEMDAS, even though the M comes before the D, we go from left to right, right? So we're going to divide 10 by 5, and that becomes 2, and we're left with times 2 left. 2 times 2 is equal to 4. Shockingly, 46% of respondents got this question incorrect. The other 54% responded with the answer being 1. I think that comes from multiplying your 5 times 2 before dividing 10 by 5. People may contend that this notation for division is unclear. That is not true. I have a TI-89 calculator that I use for my calculus and other higher math classes, and plugging these problems into them yields all the answers that I'm showing you. So I want you to be sure, and I promise you that 4 is the correct answer to this problem. There is no other way around it. And I'm going to prove that. Not actually, not mathematically, but I want to show you another problem that I posted to my story. So what is this problem that I posted? All right, the problem I posted is 4 plus 6 times 1/5, right? And so this time I'm using the backslash, right? So I'm saying times 1/5 times 4 minus 2. Now, I want you to look at this problem for a second and tell me if anything at all is remotely familiar. What you may realize is that this is the exact same question from before. Remember, the only difference from before is right here. We said divide by 5. It turns out that dividing by 5 and multiplying by 1/5 are the exact same thing. And that is why we say with Pemdas or BODMAS, you just go left to right when you come to the multiplication and division, right? Because somebody could tell you what's 2 times 2, that's equal to 4, right? And if they ask you what's 2 divided by 1/2, that's also equal to 4. These equations are asking you the exact same thing, right? So I put this problem on my poll specifically because it was the same problem, and I wanted to see how people would react to it, right? So let me just erase this real quick. And let's get back to actually solving it. So now that we know it's the same problem from before, we already know what the answer is going to be, right? So let's evaluate what's in parentheses, right? So 4 plus 6, right? That's 10. And then we can leave 1/5 how it is if we want to. You can make it 1 divided by 5 is equal to 0.2 if you want to. I don't want to because I'd just rather keep it as a fraction. So I'm going to keep it as 1/5. And then 4 minus 2, that's just 2, right? And now we have multiplication straight across. So 10 times a fifth, or if you divide it, you could say 10 times 0.2, right? That's just, 10 times 1/5 and 10 times 0.2, I did not mean to confuse that, is equal to 2, right? And then we have times 2 left, and this is equal to 4, right? And that's not surprising. We had this exact same question before. The surprising part is that 94% of people who responded got this question right, and only 1% got it wrong. And I'm pretty sure that 1% DM'd me and told me that they misclicked and meant to click 4. So 94% of people got this right. However, when it was written just a little bit differently, when it was written with a division symbol, only 46% of people got this right. So I thought that was interesting. Just make sure when you're doing your order of operations, multiplying and dividing straight across from left to right. Now, we only have, I think, 2 more problems left to go, right? We're having fun doing these practice things and learning how to do our order of operations. So why don't we look at this problem, right? Another controversial answer, 6 divided by 2 times 1 plus 2. Now, I saw this in a meme and thought it would be funny to post on my story. And it was not funny because of how many people, because of how conflicting the answers were, right? So let's do our order of operations. How about, we're so good at it now that we've been doing it for 12 minutes and 35 seconds. Let's pause the video and try and solve this on our own. Okay, so we're going to do our parentheses first, right? So we have 6 divided by 2 times 1 plus 2, that's 3, right? And now, left to right again, right? Because remember, I could have written this as 6 times is 6 divided by 2. That's the same thing as 6 times a half times 3, right? I could have written it like that, but I didn't. But remember, they're the same thing. So let's do 6 divided by 2. Well, that's just 3 times 3. And what do you know? That answer is 9. 48% of people got 9. 52% of people got 1. And that mistake just comes from multiplying first and then dividing, right? So we don't make those mistakes here, right? We don't make those mistakes after watching Johnny's math videos. And now we have one last problem. If you made it to this point in the video, you don't really need to watch this. This is just another meme problem. But here's our problem. 2 plus 6 divided by 3. And look at that. This comes from a meme, so they use the backslash. So I'm going to say 6 divided by 3 times 9. That asterisk symbol, we use that. Yeah, that means multiplication. Times 9 plus parentheses 12 minus 5 squared. Look at that. We get some practice with exponents, right? So let's evaluate what we have in parentheses first. So we have 2 plus 6 divided by 3 times 9 plus, and then our parentheses evaluates to 7 squared, right? Now, PEMDAS, exponents, we are going to raise 7 to the second power, right? So we got 2 plus 6 divided by 3 times 9 plus 49, right? Okay, now we just go multiplying and dividing from left to right. So 2 plus 6 divided by 3, that comes first. So 6 divided by 3, what is that? That's 2. And then we have times 9 plus 49. Still have multiplication left, so we're going to say 2 plus 2 times 9. What is that? That's 18 plus 49. And now we have straight addition. And when we add this all the way across, we get our answer is 69. I do not have statistics for this one. I didn't have poll answers. I just simply left it open-ended, and I think 12 people responded and got the right answer. I think one person got 78, and when I looked at the comments under the post that this problem came from. Other people also got 78. I'm not sure how that occurred, but hopefully if you thought the answer was 78, you now see why the answer would be 69. Okay, well, that's all I have for today. That was the order of operations. I had a lot of fun. And again, if you doubt the answers to any of these problems, I would encourage you to purchase a Texas Instruments calculator for $100. Not actually, don't, unless you're going to do some serious math. And plug these problems into those advanced calculators, and you'll find that the answers are what you see in this video. So, if you made it to the end of this video, thank you for watching. I very much appreciate it, and I hope you learned something.